Alrighty, hopefully everyone can see and hear me. Here we go, another puppy session tonight. I am so glad to have you guys here. My name is Tiff and I am the behavior manager at the Humane Society of Western Montana. I'm also a certified professional dog trainer. So tonight's topic is separation training. And this is, to be frank, even though I'm a professional trainer, this is the hardest topic for me. As in, even though I know what I'm doing, this is the hardest thing I work on with my puppy, and it's the thing I have the hardest time with. And it's because it's hard to go about your everyday lives, whether it's using the bathroom or cooking or going to work, when you're worried about your puppy screaming and barking and chewing the crate bars all the time. So as I'm talking right now, my lovely demo dog slash puppy, Paya, is being such a good girl, lying down in her setup there. And the goal of today's session is to talk about how do we get our puppies to that point where they are comfortable being alone, whether it's alone while you go to work or alone while you are trying to watch a movie and they are in the same room or house with you. So the first thing I want to do is I want to do a little sharing. So I'm going to do a share screen here, and I'm going to show you that my puppy is really no different than your puppy. So I am sharing with you footage from a couple weeks ago. I think that's enough. I have 8 minutes of that if you want to watch it. And of course she does stop here and there. But you know, I'm in the house. I just went into the bathroom, and like most puppies, she is throwing a little bit of a fit. Definitely share in the comments if you are experiencing something similar to that. I heard that some puppies are really good at just putting themselves to sleep, and I don't have that puppy. And my previous puppy was not like that either. They both just were really vocal and not happy anytime I left their space or created them or anything like that. But we got there to this point. So how do we do that? I am going to do training today and give you guys very actionable tips. But as you can imagine, separation training is fairly hands-off compared to teaching coming when called or something more active. So I'm going to share a lot of resources with you and be hopefully answering a lot of questions and giving you a lot of tips verbally like this. And hopefully Paya will be a good girl as I do this. So the first thing is to think about your setup, because if your setup is not comfortable for you or for your puppy, it's going to be really, really hard to work around. So an adequate puppy setup has a few things, and there are so many right ways to do it. It really depends on your household. My household is really small. Kind of what you see is what I have. I'm in my main living space. There's not much more to my house. I mean, there's like an attached kitchen. It really is really small. So as you can see, my puppy Paya is in my living space, which is exactly what I want, because I want my puppy to grow up understanding how to be part of a household. If I had a heated garage, it certainly would be easier for my sanity to just set her up in a heated garage. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that if that's what you're doing. But there just might be a more difficult transition when I want her to learn how to be in the house while people are cooking, ignoring her, watching TV, things like that. So because of my small setup, it was as convenient as I could make it to put her setup right where we hang out most of the time. She can see us cook, she can see us hang out. Now, the setup should be puppy proof. So notice my setup is actually an exercise pen attached to a crate. And notice this little roof, because she's getting so big and she can absolutely get to the top of the crate if she tried. I'm heading that off by putting a little lip on the crate. So it's puppy proof. She can't get to the wires underneath this table. She can't go into the kitchen and go mess with things like shoes over there. She's self-contained. It has bedding in the crate right there, those towels. It has water in the crate, that little metal bowl. It has water in the pen. And there are actually too many toys in there, but there are so many toys for her to self-entertain. So the basics are puppy-proof containment, water, adequate toys, and bedding if your puppy is safe with bedding. My previous puppy had no bedding, which might sound cruel, but you know what's more cruel is when he would eat little pieces of it and possibly get an obstruction. We do not want that to happen. Okay, so provided that your space is set up, because I'm sure this is the easy part for most of us. The hard part is, okay, my puppy's in there and she just hates it, right? Because she just wants to be where I am. Here is what needs to happen. There are two major components to separation training. The first component is teaching your puppy to like the space, period. The second component is teaching your puppy that being in the space is routine. So let's break that up and we're going to work on it. So let's say I just got a new puppy, or my puppy is new to this setup and I have it all ready for her. I want her to like it. So this is where your positive reinforcement comes in. All good things should happen in your puppy's space. Their feeding, special chew items, their toys, and interactions with your puppy. So as an example, my puppy is just kind of moseying around in there. I'm gonna go spend a little time with her in her space. And let me just move my setup so that you can see a few of the things that I do with her in her space. There we go. All right, good girl, Paya. Awesome. So here I am. Here's her food. I use her kibble for training. I can work on some training in here. So she's doing a lovely sit. I'm doing some luring with the kibble. If your puppy is not too sharky, which she is, you can do some cuddling with your puppy in here. It's tempting to bring Paya to the couch to cuddle with her or to the dog bed over there, but I want to spend all of this social time with her in her space so that she really, really comes to enjoy it. Oh, she's actually being really good right now. Good girl. Awesome. I can play with her in her space. You want to tell? Yay. And I know it's not a lot of space. And certainly if I had a larger household, I could make her space bigger or whatever I want to do. But this is all I have. So this is what I use. So, but puppies don't need a huge amount of space to have fun. Like she's having fun right now. I'm in here with her. This is the important thing. If you are doing crate training, I know it's a little dark to see, but what you can do is you can toss treats into your puppy's crate. If your puppy is just starting out with pen or crate training, you do not want to just put them in there and walk away, because I can almost guarantee that they are going to shriek and whine and all of that. And I will tell you what to do with that in a second. But your puppy's first introduction to the crate or to the pen should be positive. So all I'm doing is I'm throwing treats in there, or her food, little bits of her food. She can come out whenever she pleases. We're just having a fun time chasing treats down together. Yeah. And so on and so forth. Certainly, let me just get her in there. If your puppy chooses to be in there longer, you can definitely reward your puppy for being in there. So I'm just going to mop this up a little bit. So if she chooses to stay in there, I can just give her one treat at a time, 1, 2, and she can come out whenever she wants to if this was her first exposure with the crate. You can also do things like closing the door and feeding through the bars. So as an example, hiya, hello, good girl. Yay. So I'm not leaving yet. I'm just closing the door and feeding her treats through the doorway. She's offering a lovely down behavior because we've been working on it. So I'm just giving her treats free, and then she gets to come out. Again, this is all beginning stage stuff to teach her that the crate isn't just this place that I throw her into and close the door on. So I'm using a crate and a pen as an example here. But for you, it can be anything. It can be a crate, it could be a pen, it could be a baby gate across a hallway. It really needs to match whatever your household setup and your lifestyle looks like. And now I just left her. She probably wishes I was back in there, but she is getting used to it. I love that she's quietly lying down. This might change, but we'll see. So all of those things, playing, training, and cuddling, and throwing treats around, giving your puppy food, all of those positive things should be happening in your puppy's space. If you only confine them for the sake of, going to work or convenience, and you hang out with your puppy like on the dog bed or near the couch, then really what is your puppy going to look forward to with that space? Like what association are they having with that space? It doesn't mean they never come out and have fun everywhere else. It's just very important to deliberately make sure fun things happen in their space too. So I'm just going to pause right here real quick And does anyone have any questions about the logistics of setting up a space or helping your puppy form positive associations with it? There's a little lag between the Zoom and the Facebook too. So I'm just gonna wait a few more seconds to see if there are any questions. Thanks for the positive feedback. I'm glad that this information is helpful. It's a huge topic. I can do separation, talk about separation for hours, but I'm squeezing it all into a little nutshell. All right, I'm going to keep moving forward, but please feel free to post questions as they come up, and I will try to address as many as possible. At the end of this session, I'll also show you, give you resources to reach out to our behavior team and me at any point, not just on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. So we talked about one component, which is teaching your puppy to like the space in general. But if you are past this stage as a puppy owner, you probably know that that's kind of the easy part and the hard part is ahead. So definitely, here's a common scenario, like, okay, my puppy has no problems going into the crate, or maybe my puppy even sleeps in the crate overnight and is totally fine. But anytime I'm awake or my puppy knows that I'm home, then they get really upset and they seem to know the difference and they throw a fit. That's a pretty common scenario. So the second part of separation training is teaching your puppy that this is routine. So as an example, I will happily admit that Paya spends most of her time in this setup, like in the crate pen setup. Sometimes she is only in her crate, and I'll talk about that option too. Sometimes she's out here, like we go on walks, she plays with my other dog, she has normal house time, but most of her time, like I want to say 20 hours, she's in there. I want to emphasize that with my setup, my house is so small that like she's literally next to the coffee table and our couch. So she is literally in our living space. If I had a huge house, I certainly wouldn't just lock a puppy in a garage for 20 hours or anything like that. But what this does is it teaches her that this is her life. You know, she doesn't think that her life is being out here biting my pant legs, chewing on electric cords, me following her to stop her every second. This is her life, and everything else is the exception. That's the one extreme, if this is kind of your setup. But a very doable compromise is schedule parts of your day where your puppy is simply in their space. I recommend choosing parts of your day where you're naturally not focused on your puppy. For example, maybe when you're getting ready in the morning, or maybe when you're cooking dinner or watching a movie. The more you schedule these 30-minute to 1 hour or more sessions for your puppy to just exist in their space, the sooner they're going to learn, hey, this is just part of it. And that, along with making it positive, is what helps this become a comfortable routine for both of you. So we're not going to have you practice this now because it involves just hanging out with your puppy. Maybe they're already in their space as we are talking. But I want to pause for a second to let anyone with questions post them. I do see some questions come in, so I'm going to answer them as I wait for more questions to come in. One great question is, how do you teach a puppy not to knock the pen over? That's a great question. This is where the advantage of the sooner you start, the better, because you saw in the video that I shared, absolutely she had a phase where she was jumping on the pen or biting at it. I can almost guarantee that if you start out with your puppy and your puppy is in the pen and it's secured, woo, I'm gonna fall. So there is, I don't know what this is called, but like an alligator clip or something. I'm gonna try to show you here. Where's my hand? So her pen is secured to her crate on both sides. So even if she jumped against it, she cannot knock it over. I will also say she had a phase where she chewed on that, so I have a little Tabasco sauce on it. Not tasty. If you spend a regular amount of time with your puppy in the pen and you just hang out, so now I'm sitting on the couch, and you ignore unwanted behavior. So all of that video that I showed you where she was jumping on the pen, I ignored it. She is not strong enough to knock that over yet. what she learned is she gets zero attention and zero play opportunities or interaction from me for jumping and whining and screaming. And any behavior that does not work is less likely to happen. So it reduced over time. And I'm going to show you that kind of in a very objective way in a second. But then when she's being nice and calm, so right now she just kind of put herself in her crate. I know it's all so dark. You can then give your puppy attention. So good girl. She just hopped right out. Because she's calm, I'm throwing her some treats. I can pet her. I can sit by the pen. But again, the key is to ignore unwanted behaviors like biting the bars, jumping, screaming, whining, barking, and to give your puppy that attention when they're doing exactly what you want. If your puppy is extreme, like if you think they're going to hurt themselves, definitely stop what you're doing and contact us immediately. It is abnormal behavior. I will show you what's normal in a second because I'm going to show you my spreadsheet. So great question. Another great question is, if you are in a bigger home, does it matter where in the house they are? Should their space be moved depending where the people are? That's a great question. And I would say, think about the lifestyle that you want your puppy to learn in general. So if you want, for example, your puppy to learn to be in the living room while the family is eating and cooking in the kitchen, you don't need to set up a space for them in the living room and in the kitchen. If you don't mind your puppy growing up into a dog that kind of follows you room to room, it wouldn't hurt to have a little setup in many different areas of the house. For example, you might have a pen in your living room, a crate in your bedroom, and maybe a little tether station in your kitchen. This is where this is why this topic is very complex. It truly depends on the lifestyle you are aiming for and the space you have to work with. Though if you have very specific questions and you want us to help you develop that specific plan, just contact us. I'm going to post contact information at the end, and we are happy to help you out through our free behavior helpline. So onwards we go. And I'm going to show you my spreadsheet now. So another big question I get from puppy owners in general is how much barking and whining is normal. No one likes to hear their puppy distressed. In a perfect world, I would take 2 weeks off when I get any new puppy and spend time gradually easing them into this. I don't live in a perfect world, so maybe you don't either. And there is a compromise between teaching your puppy to love the space, teaching them its routine, but also when they are upset in there, understanding what is normal, what is acceptable, and how to deal with it. So that said, let me see if I can pull up the right thing to show you here. All right, so, well, first I can go back to this video and let me see if I can show you. Nope, I'm gonna go to my spreadsheet. Okay, so I have a spreadsheet, which you don't need to do. I have a spreadsheet for everything in my life. This spreadsheet is me trying to teach Paya to be quiet when draped in her crate. And I'm going to talk about that in more detail in a second. And I literally recorded and or timed how long she vocalized for. So we're not going to go over this in detail because it dates all the way back to when I first got her on November 14th. But you can see it was rough. On November 14th, she had 2 periods of vocalizing for 20 minutes. And it might have been like intermittent. There might have been short pauses there, but by and large, she was going at it for 20 minutes. And I tell you, 20 minutes feels like 2 hours or 2 years to me. So that's not good. 40 minutes on November 14th, the first time I put her in a crate and draped her. November 15th, total of 17 minutes, not too much different. November 16th, 7.5 minutes. So it's getting better. Those 7.5 minutes still feels like forever. And in a nutshell, what you can see is over time, it reduced. And by day 1, 2, 3, 4, by day 4, it was a total of 8.5 minutes. By day 5, it was a total of 40 seconds. So from 20 minutes or 40 minutes, day 1, to 50 seconds on day 1, 2, 3, day 5, that is a huge amount of progress. Now, here's what a lot of people do out of the kindness of their hearts. Their puppies are screaming for 20 minutes and they feel bad and they stop, right? Like how many people have said, I can count, well, I can't count. There are so many puppy owners who have said, I just couldn't bear it. So that first night, 20 minutes of screaming or longer, and I put my puppy in my bed. There's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but do know that if you push through for 99% of the puppies out there, it does just kind of get better on its own. So let me tell you what's normal and what's abnormal about vocalizations. What you want to see is de-escalation over time. So one thing that my spreadsheet doesn't show you is how that vocalization changed. But I can tell you right now that on November 14th, for 20 minutes, the last 10 minutes were not the same as the first 10 minutes. The first 10 minutes were really rough. The last 10 minutes, there was more space in between the vocalizations, and the vocalizations were lesser. An example might be your puppy might be jumping against the bars, or maybe nibbling on the bars, or pawing and then barking and shrieking. And if that reduces to a small whimper here and there, or 2 minutes rather than 5 minutes, that's de-escalation over time. When you should be concerned is if over a period of 10 minutes, your puppy stays at the same exact level of distress, and especially if their distress escalates over time. So let's say my puppy is just barking or whining, maybe biting the bars. Now my puppy is shrieking, and 10 minutes later, they are so scared that they're shaking and they're pooping and peeing in their space, even though they just got a potty break before I put them in their space. That's very abnormal. It's not unheard of, but you should call a trainer like us immediately if you're experiencing problems like that. So you saw for me and what I tried, 5 days. In 5 days, there was significant progress. There's one other thing I want to show you on the spreadsheet, which is on day, I highlighted it in red. Here we go, 11/24. So this is 10 days later. Look at all of these zeros. So from day 5 up until November 24th, it was just a few seconds or like a few minutes of barking a day. Nothing. Like she was so good. All of a sudden, on November 24th, there was this 10-minute spurt. And my boyfriend reported long period of intermittent barking, and more barking than ever before is literally what my notes say. But here's the interesting thing. Let me keep scrolling. So that 10 days later, it got really bad. And then the next day, 8 minutes, not great. But the next day, 15 minutes, not great either. And then zeros. 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 minute, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 1.5 minutes, 0, 0, 0. So what happened there? Like it was great for 5-10 days and then it fell apart. That's called an extinction burst. So what happens there is for any behavior, whether it's loose leash walking or separation training, this happens in all realms of training. When things are going good, there might be a period where things suddenly go bad. It might feel like nothing, like all your progress goes down the drain. This is a dog's attempt at trying a behavior that previously might have been reinforced. So, a few days of quiet, and then Paya thought, oh man, I really let me try barking. Like maybe it's going to get me something this time. And then it still didn't. And now I'm in this hopefully long lasting period where she does not vocalize much at all anymore. So all of this is to say, you should expect some vocalizations. Unless you literally have 24 hours to spend on separation training with your puppy, it's normal to wait out what's called extinction, where your puppy learns that the behavior doesn't work. Your puppy will likely scream and bark, even though you're in that same room with her, because she simply can't reach you, and that's new for her. As long as your puppy de-escalates over time, let's say a period of 10 minutes or so, and you ignore the behaviors that you don't want, and you make the separation training part of your routine, I can almost guarantee if your puppy is within the realm of normal, it is going to get better in the course of a week. You're going to see significant progress in 1 week. You're going to see even more progress in 2 weeks. You should expect an extinction burst where it feels like things have just erased. And then if you just keep at what has been working, things are going to get better and better and better. So I'm going to pause right here for a second. There are just a couple more things I want to show you, but I want to leave room for questions. And I'm going to answer this excellent question that just came up. What do you mean by tether space in the kitchen? So I'm going to show you right now. My home is not great for tethering, which is why I don't do it. But a tether space literally means setting up a tether in your home. So I'm just gonna grab a leash here. And I'm in my kitchen now. Here's a sturdy kitchen table that my puppy can't go pull down. What I can do is loop my clasp through the handle of my leash. And now the leash is attached to the table. And I could tether my puppy right here. So she can only go as far as what the tether allows. There are pros and cons to tethering. The pro to tethering is that there isn't a wall. So some puppies feel more comfortable as if they're more part of the space with tethering. The negative side to tethering is you must supervise your puppy. They can get tangled and all of that. And I only attach a tether to a harness, never to a collar, just so if they do hit the end, it doesn't jerk their neck. The harness is much more safe. With a tether station, I would set up a bed and some toys and some water if it's a long-term tethering situation. So it's just another way of preventing your puppy from being able to reach you. The reason why I don't tether is look at all the stuff I have. So she could rip up the tarp, she could get under the table. If I had a more open floor plan and more space, absolutely, I would be tethering my puppy. All right. So let's see if any more questions come in. I don't see any yet, but I will try to answer them as they come up later. So the last thing I want to talk about for today is an alternative. It's still separation related, but you see that my pen is attached to my crate. I will say that for my lifestyle, the pen is only for when there is someone home with her or in the same room. Because if I left her in the pen and went to take a nap in the bedroom or something, she might start barking. I mean, she might not. I haven't really tested it out in a while. So when I go to work, I put her in the crate and I drape it. I do not trust her just in that pen. And a draped crate does a few things. It removes visual. I know that there are some puppies in the world that can be in a crate or a pen that's undraped and be fine. I have not met that puppy personally yet, but I hear they exist. So as an example, one day recently, a few weeks ago, when I came home from a walk with my dog through my front door right there, I tested Paya in the pen. The moment we came in through the door, she started screaming because, oh my God, you're home. I'm so excited. Why can't I reach you? And then she peed. So that's when I realized, okay, my puppy is kind of a high arousal puppy. I want her to not see me leave. I want her to not see me exit and enter, especially when I'm walking my other dog. So for puppies who get very stimulated by the sight of their person leaving and entering and doing things, short periods in a draped crate are really, really valuable. So I'm going to drape her right now to show you some things that I consider. I'm going to throw some food in there. This is not good food. I'm going to throw some food in there. So I'm closing her in there, but at this phase, she is used to it. And I'm just going to take this sheet and I'm going to drape it. So now she can't see me. Now if I go to work, she can't see me go out the front door. She can still hear me go out the front door. And you can see from my spreadsheet that the first time I did this, it was still not very fun for her. But by this point, I can leave, I can play video games, I can cook, and as long as she's in the draped crate, she is just about silent. When you remove visual stimuli from a dog, it's one less thing that will work them up. I will keep her in a draped crate for 2 to 4 hours at a time, overnight, and certainly overnight. And I only put her in the draped crate when the people in the household are doing something in different rooms, moving around a lot, when I want to walk my older dog, when I'm going to work, those situations that a puppy might really feel left out and get distressed by. One thing about a draped crate to think of is if the sheet is touching the bars, a puppy can pull the sheet through the bar. So what I have done here is I put a piece of plywood, or you can use anything, over the bar, over the crate, so that when, let me see if I can do this. Okay, so when the sheet is over, it's not touching the walls of the crate. The wooden tabletop, let's call it, creates a bit of a lip. And you can see that, well, now the sheet's touching the other crate, but if this is pulled forward enough, there's a space between the sheet and the crate wall. I also use other things, like here's an extra crate pan. She truly cannot see. Again, this is not mandatory. There are so many right ways to house a puppy and to teach them to be part of a household, but not bite you all the time. This is just a great option for if your puppy is very worked up by things moving around the house. This gives them a break from that. If my puppy is calmer in a draped crate and screaming and peeing herself in a pen, I think draping her in the crate momentarily is actually better for her quality of life compared to expecting her to understand and be able to process and cope with all the goings on in the world. This is not permanent. My older dog, who's on a walk right now, started with this setup. He couldn't even take the pen because he was even more easily aroused than this puppy is, but he's a free roaming dog in the house now. He is just loose all the time. He lounges on the couch when I'm at work, and all of this will help my puppy Paya adjust to my household routine sooner in the long run. So I'm gonna pause right here. I'm happy to answer any questions that come up, and then I'm gonna share our contact information at the in just a few minutes at the end. So we have a great question. If there's more than one dog and the older dog just hangs out in the house without any issues, should the puppy always be put in her space alone? Great question. That I can talk about that for a whole hour, but the gist of it is it depends on the dynamics of your household. So I can tell you in my household, my puppy is kind of obsessed with my older dog, and my older dog does not issue any corrections towards her. So he is, you could tell he's bothered, but he just doesn't do anything about it. That's not very nice for him. So if he was more of a more fair role model for her, I actually probably would give her more time free in the house. But this setup lets my puppy be part of our living space while also giving my adult dog his space of his own. They certainly have shared time together too. So another great question is, do I leave the harness on all the time? The short answer is yes. Right now, I do take it off to resize it every week because she's growing so fast, but I want her to get used to the harness. She did itch at it a lot the first 2 weeks. She still scratches sometimes, but it's very rare now. If a puppy is not exposed to a harness between 8 to 16 weeks of age, the chances of them being a little weirded out by harnesses, so the dogs that run or kind of cower as you try to harness them, not saying that that's going to happen to an adult dog, but the chances of that happening are higher. So I will also say that my partner works from home right now. So if I was crating her a lot and I was worried about tangling, I would take it off and just put it on while I'm home. But because I have the luxury of someone home almost all the time, I am leaving the harness on a lot. Same with her collar. So any other questions? Any questions, but particularly related to separation training too. Okay, so just to sum up real quick, you want to set up an appropriate space. You want to use whatever your puppy likes, food, play, cuddle time in their space to help them enjoy it. You want to make separation training part of your routine every single day so that your puppy doesn't think I'm only in it when people want to be alone. Separate your puppy when you're cooking, when you're right next to them watching a movie, when you are reading a book, things like that. And you also want to ignore unwanted behaviors like barking and screaming and such. Understand what is normal, which is de-escalation of that over time, and understand what is abnormal. And you can also use other tips and tricks like draping your crate if your puppy is very stimulated by the visual of people moving in and out or around the house. Alrighty, so I'm just gonna put up a screen here that shows our further resources. And just so you all know, Thursday nights at 6 o'clock, we have our behavior spotlight. So this is not puppy related, but it's all free behavior advice, and it certainly applies to puppies as well. There we go. Okay, here's all the information. Like I said, tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, the topic is coming when called, which, I mean, I'm teaching that to my puppy now too. So tune in, it's shorter, like 20 to 30 minutes, and it's definitely more interactive than today's topic. As always, this is free because we want to help people during this time, and we are a privately funded nonprofit shelter. We want people to have happy, well-trained dogs. We want to help with that. I don't know why this keeps coming up. But of course, if you feel generous enough to leave a donation, we always appreciate it. And all of the funds goes towards our programs and the care of our shelter pets.